The Mi'kmaq are a First Nations people of the northeastern woodlands, indigenous to the areas now known as Canada's Atlantic provinces and the northeastern region of Maine. Prior to contact with Europeans, the Mi'kmaq preserve their culture through storytelling. Good storytellers are highly prized by the Mi'kmaq as they provide important teachings that shape who a person becomes while being sources of great entertainment. Our Wisdom for All Ages story this morning is a Mi'kmaq legend titled The Creator Visits.
A long time ago, a young man and his grandmother lived together in the woods. They were very poor. One night, the young man had a dream that the Creator came to visit him. When he woke up the next morning, he told his grandmother. The grandmother said that she, too, had dreamed that the Creator would visit. So they took this as a good sign. The young man and his grandmother prepared a feast for the visit they would be getting from the Creator. They cleaned and cooked, even though they didn't have much food. They made some bread and soup. That morning, someone came knocking at the door. When the young man opened the door, two children were standing there. They were very hungry, so the grandmother called them in and gave them something to eat. When the children finished eating, they helped to clean up, and then the grandmother sent them on their way. Around noon, someone else came knocking at the door. It was another stranger, but this time it was a youth, a young man.
Oh, please, I'm so hungry. Is there any work I can do in exchange for something to eat?
Well, come in. I will give you some soup.
The visitor ate the soup and helped wash the dishes. He was very happy. He thanked both of them and set out on his journey to the next village. Not long after that, someone else came knocking at the door.
That must be the Creator.
But when they opened the door, it was a middle-aged woman. The woman was cold and hungry.
Can you help me? I am so hungry.
Well, we don't have very much food left, and we are expecting company, but I can give you a little bread.
The visitor ate the bread and drank some water. She was very happy. She cleaned up before she, too, started on her journey again. Well, it was getting dark outside, and still the Creator had not come to see the grandmother and the grandson. Around 8 o'clock, someone came knocking at the door. The grandmother opened the door and saw an old man.
Please give me something to eat. I am too weak to make it to the next village.
The grandmother was so disappointed that this was not the Creator that she slammed the door in the old man's face.
Go away.
Outside in the yard, the old man slipped and fell. He was hungry and weak. When the grandmother and the grandson saw this, they felt bad. They ran out and helped him into the house and gave him some water and the rest of their soup and bread. There was no food left. When the old man left, he thanked them for the food. As they watched him walk away, he disappeared. The grandmother and the grandson were tired, so they went to sleep. And the Creator once again came to see them in their dreams.
Where were you? Why didn't you come see us today?
Said,
We made a feast for you.
and the Creator answered,
I was there today. I came to see you 4 times, and each time you gave me food. From this day on, you will never be hungry again. My message this morning comes with a thesis statement, which is, wait for it, radical hospitality is the answer. As a non-creedal religious community that places the highest value on the spiritual journey, we tend to emphasize the questions more than the answers. So I expect you're asking right now, well, Reverend Leanne, what's the question? Drum roll, please. The question is, how can we best cultivate relationships? Why, you might ask, is it so important to cultivate relationships? African-American poet, civil rights activist, and memoirist Maya Angelou expressed it well in her poem, Alone, portions of which I share now. Lying, thinking last night, how to find my soul a home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not a stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering. The wind is gonna blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moan, because nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. The antidote to being alone, all alone, is the cultivation of relationships. Now, I'm not talking about just any relationship. I'm talking about ones that reflect our commitment to our 7 principles, especially to the inherent worth and dignity of every person. What, you may ask, do I mean when I say radical hospitality? It's a concept that's been embraced by many UU congregations without a clear and definitive explanation of what it is or how to embody it, either on an individual or an institutional level. To begin, the English major in me wants to lay out the etymological meaning of the phrase radical hospitality. So here goes. Radical comes from the Latin radix or radic, which means the root. In Middle English, the word radical meant forming the root in the sense of being inherent. In modern usage, it has come to mean relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something. Hospitality comes from the Latin root hospes, which refers to both sides of the relationship that's formed when one person welcomes another. It refers to the stranger or guest, as well as the host. It connotes a mutual relationship of caring and concern. It's also the root for hospice, hospital, hostel, and hotel. So radical hospitality signals an all-encompassing change in our fundamental understanding of the social relationships of host and guest, or resident and stranger. Offering hospitality in a radical way means offering hospitality in a fundamentally different way. In her sermon on radical hospitality, Reverend Dr. Marilyn Sewell recounts the story of individual radical hospitality told by African-American civil rights activist Rosemary Harding. In the years that Harding was growing up, her house was a regular stop for neighbors and relatives and friends. Her mother and father made the house an open and welcoming place. All kinds of people came through, not just neighbors and friends, but peddlers, professional gamblers, petty thieves, prostitutes, and people we would probably call homeless today. Her mother would set out beautiful china dishes and slices of our homemade pound cake for all of them, especially for the ones just passing through. It was as if she knew that they needed special attention. Besides, she genuinely enjoyed hearing their stories and learning from them. She knew that wisdom came from many sources. Harding tells of an itinerant bookseller who would come now and then for a visit. She says, he would sit down with Mom there in the dining room and talk for hours about the events of the day and about books. The man was not always very clean, and sometimes, Harding says, we children could smell the mustiness of his ragged clothes and the sweat of his body. His speech was strange, too, and we children were tempted to laugh, she says. But if we so much as let out a snicker, Mom would cut her eyes at us and set us straight. Harding goes on to say, the efforts my parents made to be neighborly and to reserve judgment against those who society viewed as outcasts served as important examples for their children and grandchildren as we grew into adulthood. Hospitality was the foundation of my family's spirituality. In my own family, an uncle by marriage once explained why he and my aunt keep a candle lit in the window by sharing that his father always kept a lit candle in the window of their New England home so that train jumpers and itinerant workers would know where it was safe to ask for a meal, a shower, and a warm bed for the night. I grew up with adult family members who regularly invited people who would be alone for the holidays to join our family festivities. Some of these people were already well known to us, but many were not, having been pointed out to my parents or grandparents as people who could use the company during the holidays. It is a family tradition that still lives on. These may be considered examples of individual acts of radical hospitality, a kind of welcome that goes far beyond friends and family and which recognizes the inherent worth and dignity of all people, regardless of race or economic class or all the other dimensions by which we sort each other out. But how do we translate the concept of radical hospitality as a church? Members of UUCJ have covenanted with each other to invite and welcome others in the quest for spiritual and ethical growth, recognizing each other and guests in fellowship. Those are the exact words. That's a tall order. If taken seriously, it would require us to embrace not only those who resemble us, but also those who at some level scare us or bring up feelings of distrust. Social scientists tell us that human beings are tribal by nature, preferring those who appear similar in body, manner, and speech. Historically, relatively small groups of highly loyal and homogeneous groups tended to prosper. So we feel more comfortable when we're with the people we know and gravitate toward them when we come to church. We feel much less comfortable around people who look differently, speak differently, have different perspectives, ideas, and interests. We just do. As a religious community, though, one of our primary gifts we have to offer the world is a place where people can enjoy belonging to a community who knows and cares about their well-being. So what does radical hospitality demand of us? First, it demands that we extend ourselves to others in our efforts to be welcoming. We have to be willing to go beyond our comfort zone by approaching somebody we don't know and introducing ourselves, asking what brought them to an event and what interests they have. We can't just stick to our familiar friends. We must introduce somebody we don't know to a group of people we do know if we're going to give a new person or a shy person a sense of belonging in this community. We each have to embrace the ministry of radical hospitality. Radical hospitality also requires us to stop trying to make people conform to our expectations. When we extend radical hospitality, we meet people where they are and include them without an expectation that they'll fully conform to our notion of community. We may even modify some of our own expectations for community participation in order to be more hospitable to those who we welcome. We have to be flexible in all aspects of congregational life, or we aren't truly being hospitable. And finally, radical hospitality sends a message beyond, you are welcome to join us. It says, we see you, and we want to join you wherever you are. In short, radical hospitality doesn't just ask, do you want to be with us? It asks, how can we be with you? And it breaks down the physical and social barriers that keep people away or make them feel unwelcome in our midst. Radical hospitality encourages us to leave the comfort of our campus to meet members of the community and to open our campus to them. As a disruption to systemic racism and economic oppression, radical hospitality requires a fundamental shift from a simple practice of offering welcome to an outward movement to be with others, particularly those who are at society's margins. You know, there's an unlimited amount of love in the universe. When you express care and concern for someone, you do not deplete the stores of love. There's actually a pretty good argument that can be made that you are, in fact, increasing the amount of love in the world. And there's nothing better than to feel that you have been seen and respected and to know that your voice has been heard. Maya Angelou, also known for her profound observation that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. As we use our time together to explore what it is that UUCJ can do for the world, let's consider using radical hospitality in all aspects of congregational life to make people feel worthy and honored and cared for, and not so very alone. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.